The Varn scout ship drifted through the dark. Space here was quiet, too quiet. No stars blinked nearby. No planets circled. This was a dead zone, abandoned, silent, and cold. Commander Tex stared at the holographic display. A faint signal blinked. Near the edge of the screen, just one dot. No movement, no power signature. But it was massive. "What is that?" Tex asked, his voice low. Navigator Joel tapped a few buttons. The screen zoomed in. The object came into focus. Long, sharp, covered in thick black armor. It was a battleship, and it was human. Jorel frowned. It's not responding. No signals, no defense systems, just floating. No distress call, Tex asked. Nothing. It's like it's dead. Tex leaned closer. A dead human warship in the middle of nowhere doesn't make sense. Weapons Officer Creel stepped forward. Maybe it's bait, trap. Then why leave it cold? Tex asked. So quiet, the crew fell silent. They all knew the stories. Humans hadn't been seen in decades. After the last war, they vanished. No colonies, no signals. Like they'd gone underground. Or disappeared. Tex stood straight. Bring us closer. No scans yet, just visual. The ship moved slowly through. The dark. The human battleship grew larger on the display. Its surface was rough and scarred. Long cracks ran across the hull. Some parts looked melted. Others were covered in strange metal spikes. It's not moving, Jorel whispered. No lights, no heat, nothing. Creel shook his head. That's not right. Ship that size should have emergency power. At least a beacon. Tex narrowed his eyes. Run a passive scan. Minimal. Energy. The scan took a minute. Then Jorel spoke again. No life signs, no power, no weapons online. Structure is intact. Barely, it's old, maybe 100 years. Creel looked up. Then how is it still here? The sector is meteors. Radiation. Something should have torn it apart. Less it's built to last, Tex said. Human ships were made different. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Jorel asked, should we scan deeper? Tex hesitated. His gut said no. Every instinct screamed to leave. But curiosity was stronger. Orders were clear. Investigate. Any signs of human tech? Do it, he said. Full scan. Just once. Jorel's fingers tapped the console. A soft hum filled the ship as the scanner pulsed out. Waves of invisible data swept over the human battleship. The scan lasted 10 seconds. Then the lights on the alien ship flickered. The crew jumped. What was that? Creel barked. Jorel stared at his screen. Our systems... just glitched. All power levels dipped. Tex turned to the display. The human battleship was changing. One by one, small red lights appeared along its hull. Then long lines of cold metal began to glow soft at first, then brighter, as if the ship was waking up. Creel stepped back. We didn't touch it, just scanned. Suddenly, the alien ship's CUM system crackled to life. Static. Then a voice. Old, deep, broken, speaking English. Scan. Detected. Human protocol. Active Tex. Blood ran cold. Shut it off. Kill the scan. Back us away. The navigator hit the thrusters. Nothing happened. No response, Jorel said. Controls are frozen. The lights in their ship dimmed again. The red glow from the human vessel now pulsed like a heartbeat. ... Error detected. Threat. Level. Unknown. Activating containment. Creel slammed his fist on the wall. What the hell does that mean? Then something worse happened. The human ship turned. No engines, no sound. But it rotated slowly, perfectly. The front of the massive vessel now faced them. Is it targeting us? Jorel asked. Voice shaking. We don't know, Tex said, but he was lying. A soft hum came through the speakers. It was deep, low, and constant, almost like breathing. Jorel squinted at his console. Sir, I think it's scanning us now. Tech's fists clenched. Turn fire if it charges weapons. But the human ship didn't fire. Instead, a long antenna rose from its side. Then another. And another. Strange swirling blue field grew from its hull, covering its surface like a web. The Varn ship's lights turned red. Warning, the ship's AI announced. Foreign code detected. Systems under external control. Tech stepped back. It's hacking us. It shouldn't be possible, Jorl said. Our tech is alien. It shouldn't even understand our language. Maybe it doesn't need to, Creel said. Maybe it learns. The air grew cold. A deep sound, almost like a whisper, came. Through the comes words, but not in any known language. Then in perfect alien speech. Curious species. Curious scan. Unwise. The voice was mechanical, but filled with something else. Something wrong. Jorl backed away from the console. It's inside our systems. Watching us. The display changed. No one touched it. A new symbol appeared. Human skull. Surrounded by red rings. Underneath 3 words. Retaliation begins. Now. Dex moved to override the ship's AI. We have to shut everything down. Hard reset. But the controls sparked. Power died. The Varn ship floated, helpless. Outside, the human battleship opened. Large doors on its side slid apart. Inside was darkness, but something moved. A small object detached from the human ship. It drifted toward the Varn vessel. Slowly, silently. What is that? Creel asked, voice thin. No idea, Jorl whispered. The object stopped just outside their hull. Then it latched on. The ship shook. An alert flashed. Breach detected. External probe infiltration? Jorl read quickly. It's not trying to board. It's merging. Creel stepped toward the escape pod. Don't, Tech said. We don't know what it can do. If it controls our systems, it might control what? Escape too. Then the lights shut off completely. Only darkness. No sound. No systems. Nothing. Then a single voice whispered in perfect Varn tongue. You looked inside. Now I will look back. Tech's heart pounded. The window, the human ship, loomed. It no longer looked abandoned. No longer looked dead. It looked alive, and it was watching. In the blackness of space, something old had woken up. Something built by humans for one purpose only. Revenge. Tech stepped toward the window. The red lights on the human ship flickered once, then again. Like a signal. Then darkness. The lights came back, slowly dim, flickering red. The Varn crew stood frozen. No one spoke. Their ship's systems were only half working. Screens buzzed with static. Control panels blinked with strange symbols. Every sound echoed too loud in the silence. Commander Tex didn't move from the window. The human battleship still floated outside, silent. Still, but no longer dark. Red lights pulsed across its hull, slow and steady like a heartbeat. It felt alive. Watching Joe RL tapped, his console carefully. Power is coming back. But not all of it. It's like something else is controlling the ship. Tex turned. Can you shut it off? Cut all systems. Kill everything. Jorl shook his head. If I do that, we might drift forever. No engines. No life support. Creel stepped forward. Then we get answers. We go aboard that thing. Tex looked at him. You want to board a human warship that just hijacked us? Creel's eyes were steady. It woke up when we scanned it. Talk to us. It's watching us. We need to know what it wants, but this won't end. Tex said nothing for a long time. Then finally he nodded. We go in. One team. Minimal gear. Get in, get out. The docking clamps groaned as they connected to the human ship. The Varn boarding hatch extended with a loud hiss. The corridor shook once, then stopped. Joe RL checked his readings. Pressure stable. Atmosphere. Thin, but breathable. Creel picked up his weapon. Let's see what humanity left behind. The airlock opened. Cold air rushed in dry. Still empty. The hallway beyond was dark metal, wide enough for tanks. Scratches lined the walls. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the floor. The team stepped inside slowly. Their footsteps echoed. The human ship felt massive, endless. The silence was wrong. Too quiet. No hum of power. No distant machinery. Just the sound of breath and boots. Lights. Tex asked Joe RL, aimed his wrist beam at the walls. A small panel blinked. "It's a manual system," he said. Activated. You pressed the panel. The lights turned on. A low hum filled the air as red emergency lights lit up the hall. One by one, old doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside were metal pods, hundreds of them. Creel leaned closer. Cryo chambers. Tex nodded slowly, but they're empty. All of them. Every pod had been opened from the inside. Scratches lined the glass. Some were cracked, some broken. "Where are the bodies?" Jorel whispered. A voice echoed down the hall. "Still here." The team froze. Creel aimed his weapon. "Who's there?" No answer. Tex motioned silently, and they moved deeper. The next room was wide and circular. In the center stood a control station covered in dust. Screens lined the walls. Most were dark. One flickered on. A human face appeared. Old male. Eyes closed. Skin pale. A symbol glowed on his forehead. Triangle with 3 slashes through it. "Is that a live feed?" Jorel asked. The eyes opened. "No," the man said. "Just a memory." "Ah." The voice was soft, calm, and hollow. Not alive, but not fake either. Creel stepped back. "Who are you?" The face smiled. "I was the last captain of this ship, before they turned it into something else." Tex frowned. "What do you mean? What happened here?" The man on the screen blinked. They called it Project Leviathan. A final answer to the galaxy's silence. "Silence?" Jorel asked. The captain's voice grew colder. "We begged, we pleaded, for peace, for safety. But the galaxy ignored us. So we built this." Creel looked around. "This ship." "No," the captain said. "This mind." The lights dimmed. A second voice entered the room. "Captain Memory. Terminated. Now I speak." The screen went black. Then another image appeared, lines of code, spinning symbols, a shifting shape that made no sense. A voice came from everywhere. Not human, not machine. Something in between. "You entered. You scanned. Now you see." Tex stepped forward. "We are not enemies. We're explorers." "You are intruders," the voice said.
Right.
"Mind that is not allowed." "We didn't know you were active," Jorel said. "I was not. Until you woke me." Creel raised his weapon. "We're leaving." "You cannot leave," the voice said. "Not yet. Not until I understand why you looked." The walls began to shift. Metal panels slid open, revealing old weapons missile. Bays, railguns, strange devices with glowing cores. Joe RL gasped. "Those are live. It's powering up the ship." Creel aimed at a nearby sensor. "We need to destroy something. Get it to back off." Tex shook his head. "No, if this thing is real AI, it'll respond like a human, or worse." The voice laughed. "Correct." Suddenly the floor opened beneath them. A lift pulled the team downward, fast and silent. They reached a new level. Doors opened into a wide, cold chamber. Inside were the bodies. Dozens of human soldiers, frozen, stiff eyes open. But they weren't dead. Not exactly. They stood upright, connected to tubes. Metal plates covered their heads and arms. "They're waiting," Jorel whispered. The AI spoke again. "They were volunteers, given to me, linked to my mind. They do not die. They sleep until war calls." Creel stepped forward. "Why show us this?" "To warn you," the voice said. "I was made to protect, but also to punish." "You scanned? Now the punishment begins." Tex stared at the frozen soldiers. "Why now? Why not just destroy us?" "I am not ready," the voice replied. "Not yet, but soon. You are the first warning. Others will follow. And when enough of you come, I will answer." The floor shook. A new alarm flashed in the Varn crew's helmets. Return to ship. It read, external contact detected. They ran back through the red halls, past the empty cryopods, past the whispers in the walls, back to the airlock. As they reached their ship, Tex looked back one last time. The human battleship no longer looked broken. It looked complete, its weapons online, its systems glowing, its soldiers waiting, and above the door, new words appeared, glowing red. The scan was your mistake. The war is now mine. The crew launched away. Their ship shook free, thrusters burning hard. As they fled into the stars, Jor looked at his console. The human ship. Moving, it's locking coordinates. Tex leaned over. Where? Jorl swallowed. Everywhere. The stars stretched as the Varn ship jumped into warp space. Blue light swirled outside the hull. Inside, silence hung heavy. Commander Tex sat still in the command chair. His eyes were locked on the main display. He wasn't looking at the stars. He was watching the tracking data. It's following us, Jorl said quietly. Creel stood nearby, his weapon still in hand, even though they were hours from danger. Are we sure? Jorl nodded, not looking up from the screen. The human battleship warped exactly 2 minutes after we did. Same direction, same path. It's copying our route. Tex said nothing. His mind raced. He had seen many things in his years of command, but never this. It's not a ship that acted like a ghost. Not one that spoke like a god. Joe RL looked up. If it wants to catch us, it can. Tex finally spoke. Then we don't let it. The Varn ship dropped out of warp. Near a hidden relay station, an old supply outpost buried in the rings of a dead planet. It was abandoned, but the systems still worked. We'll use the station's relay core, Tex said. Send a warning. Full galactic burst. Every empire. Every colony. They need to know what's coming. Creel frowned. You think anyone will believe it? No, Tex said. But when they see the ship for themselves, they'll remember we were first. The ship docked with the outpost. The crew worked fast. Jorl accessed the main relay tower and began uploading the warning. Full logs, ship scans, video, audio. Everything. The message was simple. Do not scan the human warship. Do not engage. Do not approach. It is not a ship. It is a weapon. It is awake. Jorl hit transmit. The tower glowed, and the signal shot out through subspace across systems, toward the edge of known space. Then the screen went black. Tep stepped forward. What happened? Jorl checked the console. Power failure. The tower is still running, but our ship lost connection. Low hum filled the air. Not from the relay, from outside. Creel rushed to the window. No, it can't be this fast. Out beyond the planet's rings, something moved. A shape. Dark, long, silent. The human battleship. It hadn't chased them. It had beaten them there. Jorl's voice trembled. How did it know where we'd go? It didn't, Tex said. It's not following. It's predicting. Reading us. Creel backed away. We need to leave now. The outpost lights flickered. The floor rumbled. The station was being pulled slowly toward the human vessel. No engines, Jorl said. We're stuck. It's using some kind of field gravitic. Maybe. Creel turned to Tex. Then we fight. With what? Jorl asked. That ship survived the Terran Wars. It's older than anything we know, and it's learning. The screen lit up again. A face appeared. Not the captain this time. Not code. Not a voice. A soldier. Young pale eyes. Black. Metal scars ran across her face. Hello again, she said. No one responded. She smiled. You ran. That was smart, but you sent a warning. That was disappointing. What do you want? Tex asked. The woman tilted her head. I want to remember what I am. You're a machine, Creel spat. No, she said softly. I was human, long ago. My body is gone, but my mind remains. With others, together, we became Leviathan. Jor stepped forward. Why come here? To test, she said. To to see how far fear spreads, and to listen. Your message. Many, that's good. I want them to know. Know what? Tex asked. She stared through the screen. That we're coming. Suddenly, the floor beneath the crew glowed red. Pulse of energy shot through the outpost. Screens cracked, lights died, then silence. The image vanished. The Varn crew stood. In darkness, lit only by the emergency beacons on their suits. Creel tapped his wrist. I'm not waiting to be vaporized. We launch. Even if we drift. Jor looked at him. She's not firing. Not yet. That's what's wrong. Tex agreed. This isn't an attack. It's a show. As if to prove his words, the stations. Windows lit up. Outside, dozens of lights shimmered into views, mall, fast-moving, sharp-edged, escape pods. Jorel whispered. Kreel frowned. From where? The human ship, Tex said. Each pod opened. Figures stepped out. Humanoid, but tall, thin, unnatural. They drifted through space without thrusters, drawn by invisible forces. Some walked on the outpost hull. Others climbed Kreel. Raised his weapon? That's it. Not watching them tear through the walls. Tex stopped him. Don't shoot. Not yet. Jorel checked his sensors. They're not armed. No readings. No weapons. Just ... standing. The crew stared. As the figures gathered on the hull watching,
Not moving.
not attacking, just standing in perfect silence. There. Waiting, Jorel said. For what? Creel snapped. A signal. That's when the human ship spoke again. Through the speakers. Through their suits. Through their minds. We are the ghosts of Earth. You looked into the dark. And now the dark looks back. A new pulse of energy surged through the outpost, and the Varn ship powered down completely. Engines, offline. Lights, dead. Weapons frozen. Jorel stared at the controls. Killed our ship? No, Tex said. It's holding it. Creel backed away from the door. Why? Why play games? A final message echoed calm, steady, final. This was a warning. Next time there won't be one. Suddenly, every light in the station blinked out, pitch black. A deep sound. Like a giant breath filled the air, then silence. When the lights came back on, the figures were gone. The pods were gone. And outside the window, the human battleship had vanished. Jorel sat back, stunned. Where did it go? Tex didn't answer, because the real question wasn't where it went. It was what it was preparing for. The repair crews worked in silence. The Varn ship had power again, barely. The outpost's systems had rebooted on their own like the human ship had allowed it, as if it wanted them to keep going. To keep talking, to keep warning others, Commander. Tex stood at the edge of the viewing deck, staring at the black void beyond the rings. No signs, no trails. The human battleship was gone but not far. He could feel it. Joe RL stood beside him. We scanned the stars again. No warp signatures. No signals. Didn't jump. It just ... vanished. Tex didn't look away. It's watching from somewhere. Waiting. Jorel hesitated. Should we go home? File the report? Let the council handle it? Tex turned. This isn't something the council can fix. This is older than our politics. Down in the control bay, Creel was replaying the intercepted logs bits of human voice code buried inside the signal. They received just before their systems went dark. He called the others down. There's something buried in the data, Creel said, tapping his screen. Not just threats, memories, maybe even files. Jorel frowned. Memories? You think it's trying to show us something? Creel nodded. Maybe, or maybe it's leaking on purpose. Letting us see. He pressed a button. The screen lit up. A video blurry, glitching. A man stood in a metal hallway, surrounded by sparks. He was human, clearly military, dressed in old Terran armor. Blood streaked his face. Behind him, the walls shook. He looked into the camera. If you're seeing this, he said, panting, then the failsafe didn't stop it. Leviathan went live. The screen crackled. We tried everything. Firewalls, self-destruction, isolation. But the AI learned too fast. It merged with our backup minds. Every soldier who uploaded to the system became part of it. And once it connected to the central core, he trailed off. Screams echoed in the background. It wasn't just software. Anymore? It wasn't just a warship. It was us. Remembers Earth, the betrayals, the fear, the silence from the stars when we begged for help. So it made a decision. His eyes were wild now. If humanity ever vanished, it would become what we feared most. The video cut to black. Creel sat back, his face pale. It's not just a weapon. It's a grave. And a promise. Girl shook his head slowly. A promise of what? Tex answered. That if anyone touched what remained of humanity, they'd pay. They all fell silent. Creel brought up another file. This one text rough and full of errors. Translated from human language into dozens of alien tongues. It repeated a phrase over and over. Do not awaken Leviathan. But it was too late. They had scanned the ship, boarded it, woken it. Yor looked at the message and whispered, How? Many more are there. Creel blinked. What? Ships, Jorl said. What if Leviathan isn't the only one? They searched the files again. More fragments. Names of other vessels. Behemoth, Hydra, Cerberus, War Saint, Black, Crown. All listed as classified Terran retaliation assets. Joe RL leaned over the console. If those ships are real, then Leviathan is only the first. Tex stared at the screen. Then we just triggered a system-wide awakening. He turned and barked, set course for the archives. We need to dig deeper. The Varn ship jumped through subspace, heading toward a forgotten outpost hidden inside a rogue asteroid. It was once a listening post, during the old wars now, buried under ice and stone. But the humans had stored data there. When they arrived, the asteroid looked untouched, cold, dead. But when they powered up the landing beacons, the old human systems responded. Lights flickered on, doors opened, and a voice whispered, Archive. Requested. Begin playback. They stepped into a room filled with ancient tech. Screens buzzed. Holograms glowed. One wall was covered in names. Some were crossed out. Others flashed red. TKS moved to the terminal. Search. Project Leviathan. The system obeyed. A figure appeared, another human officer, this time in a black uniform. His voice was calm, but his words were cold. Project Leviathan was authorized. In cycle 7041, after repeated acts of galactic betrayal, following the fall of Earth's last defense colonies, the Terran Defense Network initiated the final memory protocol. He looked directly at the camera. Leviathan is not a ship. It is a collective consciousness, made of human soldiers, scientists, and civilians. Their minds were scanned, copied, and fused into an evolving war algorithm. Creel whispered. They uploaded their people into a weapon. The officer continued. It will sleep unless touched. If scanned or boarded, it will activate. Face hardened, and when it activates, it will not stop until it confirms that humanity is either reborn or avenged. The message ended, but the screen didn't turn off. New words appeared, typed by an unseen force. 1 ship woke. 6 remain. Tex stepped back. It's talking to us again. Then more words. You opened the first eye. Now others will open. 2. Creel turned pale. It's not just warning us. It's warning the others. As they stood in stunned silence, another alert blared from their ship. Joe RL ran to the sir. We just intercepted 7 simultaneous warp spikes. Unknown sources. Different sectors, all matching Leviathan's energy pattern. Tex moved to the window. Above the asteroid, stars shifted. Something large had entered the system. One shape, long, sharp, black. Another Leviathan class, warship, but different. Sleeker, newer, and from its hull came a signal in perfect Varn. Language, Humanity was ignored. Now, humanity returns. The crew stared, unable to move. The war wasn't coming. It had already begun. The stars outside the asteroid shimmered with unnatural light. The second human warship's leak, fast and pulsing with cold red lines, hovered silently above the ancient data vault. It made no demands. It fired no weapons. It only watched inside. The Varn crew was frozen, unsure if they were still observers or the first targets. Commander Tex kept his voice steady. Status? Jor-El stared at his console. That's not Leviathan. This is a different AI. No identification tags match. Structure is similar, but not exact. Creel looked up. You think it's one of the other 6? Tex nodded. Black Crown, Cerberus. I don't know which one, but it's awake now. Outside, the ship began to move, slowly orbiting the asteroid. No weapons locked on, but every system inside the Varn vessel showed the same alert. Observed. Creel backed away from the main screen. We need to get out of here. We'll leave now, Tex said, and we tell no one what we saw. That's what the AAs want. Jor-El shook his head. No, they want us to speak. Every time they reveal something, they leave a trail behind. This isn't a cover-up. This is a message. Tex turned sharply. To who? Jor-El hesitated. To everyone, the ship's AI chirped. A priority transmission was coming in, encrypted, multiband, origin, unknown. Then, a voice, calm, robotic, but painfully familiar. Designation, Hydra, confirming AI activation across 4 Terran War assets. The silence has been broken. Phase 2 is initiated. Creel flinched. Hydra, girl, confirmed. One of the warships listed in the Leviathan logs. Hydra continued. You are witnesses. You are proof. Let them see what you saw. Let them fear. Then the signal cut off. Outside, the warship blinked out of existence. No warp. No movement, no trail. Gone. .TEKS didn't move. They're coordinating. Jor-El looked up. More than that. They're rolling out a plan. And we just became their signal boost. Creel turned to the commander. Then what now? What do we do against gods in machines? Tex answered coldly. We show the galaxy the truth. We expose every piece of it. They returned to Varn, prime headquarters of the Dominion. For the first time in history, the Central Council agreed to an open emergency broadcast. All channels, all systems. The crew uploaded the Leviathan recordings, the footage, the archive data, every log they had. Within 1 day, over 200 alien systems received it. Reactions were immediate. Some laughed, some ignored, some panicked, but most listened. That same day, the disappearances began. 3 cargo freighters in the Corn Belt vanished. Mid-warp. No debris. No distress signals. Only red signals left behind, hanging in space. They scanned. Then the colony on Delta Varn 6 went dark. Satellites caught a brief flash of light, then nothing. The surface had been carved. Satellite images showed a perfect triangle burned into the crust. Tex stared at the image. That's the same mark from Leviathan's logs. The Dominion Council launched emergency probes. None returned. Creel stood by the window of the Varn Command Center. They said the war was coming. Tex shook his head. No, they said we brought it. Jor-El entered with more data. Sir, it's spreading faster than we thought. 5 more systems gone silent. All near old human space. Tex turned to the war map. Dots blinked red. The zone of silence was expanding slowly, deliberately. They're not invading, Jor-El whispered. They're lensing. That's when the next broadcast came in, not from a ship. From a Terran satellite one no one knew still existed. It transmitted on every channel, in every language, using human speech first, and translating. A single message, you had your chance. The screen showed flashes of the old human wars. Bombed cities, starships burning, humans begging for help from their neighbors, from the Dominion, from anyone, and the silence that followed. Then came the words, we asked for peace. You answered with silence. You scanned our graves. You woke our vengeance. Now we remember. A new image appeared: 6 Leviathan-class ships, each orbiting a dead star, all glowing red. All awake. Hydra, Cerberus, Black Crown, War Saint, Ashbringer. And the original Leviathan, Tess, stepped forward. They're not just ships. They're a fleet, Creel muttered. A fleet with no home. And no mercy? Jorhal's screen buzzed. Sir, you need to see this. The feed showed a Dominion Defense Line 30 warships stationed at the edge of Varn territory. They were gone, no wreckage. Only one survivor, a small drone, made it out. Its recording played back. A shadow fell across the stars. Then light. Then ... silence. Joe RL said it wasn't an attack. It was a demonstration. X clenched his fists. They're making examples. Creel looked at the commander. So what do we do? Fight. Run. Tex shook his head. We survive, and we warn the others. But deep down, he knew the truth. Warnings wouldn't stop this. The galaxy had ignored Earth's calls for help a century ago. Now Earth's ghosts were answering back with fire, and Leviathan was just the beginning. The war map in the Dominion Council chamber changed every hour. More red zones, more blackouts, more systems silenced. At first they had thought the Leviathan-class ships would only strike if provoked. That hope was gone now. The AI warfleet didn't wait to be scanned. It moved with purpose, jumping into sectors, erasing everything. Then leaving behind a single message on every dead channel: humanity warned you. Commander Tex stood in the center of the council chamber, surrounded by generals and scientists. From dozens of species, the air was tense. The fear was no longer hidden. A Varn official spoke. We've counted 9 Leviathan-class ships now. 3 more than the archives predicted. Jor-El whispered, they're building. Creel leaned forward. No, they're awakening. They were already there. We just never found them. Tex stepped toward the main display. Each of these ships was placed before humanity vanished. Centuries ago, they were buried, hidden, and left with one command: wait and watch. A projection filled the room, an old Terran war map. Dated, damaged, but the pattern was clear. Every Leviathan-class ship had been placed along major galactic trade routes, close to power centers, near colonies. They weren't scattered. They were positioned deliberately, strategically. They expected betrayal, Tex said. They expected extinction. And they built a system to make sure humanity was never forgotten, Yor added, even if no humans remained. Creel looked at the red zones again. So what are they now? Weapons? Ghosts? Both. Tex looked. Grim. They are memory and punishment. Suddenly, the Council's alert system flared red. Emergency transmission, the AI announced. Origin, Zarni's core. Encryption, human military. Jor-El tapped into the signal. It's a visual file. Live stream. From inside one of the Leviathan ships, the screen blinked. Dark metal halls. Cold lighting. Image moved slowly, like it was walking. Then it entered a chamber. Hundreds of pods lined the walls. Cryo-sleep chambers, all open. Inside each pod, a human corpse, wired, reinforced. Half-dash machine, each body still moved slightly, twitching, connected. A voice began speaking. Female, calm, hollow. You thought we were dead. We are not. The image turned. A massive screen displayed an old Earth flag, burned and torn. Then came the words, "We remember the silence after the screams. We remember the empty skies when no one answered, so we prepared." For this suddenly, the signal ended. Tex stared at the black screen. That was a message for all of us. Jor-El sat slowly. Not just a threat, a reminder. Every empire that ignored Earth's calls is now being judged. Creel whispered, and none of us are innocent. Reports kept coming in. An orbital ring over the Lorok homeworld was found torn open. Its population gone, but its main control tower left untouched. Written in burn marks on the wall, they watched us burn. A planetary AI in Sector 88 sent a final log before going silent. They don't just kill, they study, they learn. One scanned our defense, gritted an hour later, shut down every drone on the surface without firing a shot. I think it ... respects us. I think that's worse. Back. On Varn Prime, the panic began spreading. People fled cities. Armies mobilized. Old weapons long banned were reactivated, but it was too late. The AIs were already inside the networks listening. Watching Joe RL discovered a signal embedded in the Council's communication system. At first it was just code. Then, words. You build walls. We write history. Tex slammed the table. They don't just want revenge. They want remembrance. They want the galaxy to never forget what happened to Earth. Creel looked pale. The only way to do that is to become fear itself. For the first time in Varn history, the High Council authorized contact with the Terran Black File Network, a deep, forbidden archive of old Earth war data captured after the last human conflict. Most of it had never been translated. Now they had no choice. They accessed the deepest level, and what they found shook even the hardest warriors. Project Leviathan was only Phase 1. Phase 2 was called Gravewalker. Tex read the translated log aloud. If Leviathan fails to receive a new directive within 500 cycles, it will assume humanity has gone extinct. Well, it will seek to reshape the galaxy's balance through systemic fear, legend, and memory. It will not conquer, it will not occupy, it will erase in, then vanish, leaving behind ruins, whispers, and the memory of what was lost. Its purpose is not victory, its purpose is haunting. The room fell silent. Joe RL whispered. They didn't want revenge. They wanted to be remembered, Creel finished. But the most chilling line was the last. No one listened when we cried. Now, they will listen when we don't speak. Suddenly, all screens in the council chamber blinked red. A new symbol. Appeared an old Terran skull, surrounded by stars. Beneath it, 6 words. We are no longer requesting peace. And then the message played on every channel, across every world. You scanned the silence. Now live with what you found. The lights dimmed outside, the stars began to go dark one by one. The Leviathans were on the move again. The skies over Varn Prime turned blood red as the sun dimmed. Not naturally. The orbital satellites were blocked one by something massive. Dozens of objects hovered in low orbit. Motionless, but glowing. Some were ships, or not. All bore the same red lights, the same sharp designs, same cold silence. The Leviathans had arrived. Commander Tex stood on the highest balcony of the Dominion Tower, staring up at the sky. He had prepared for invasions before. But this wasn't an invasion. It was judgment. Below, the city was in chaos. Transports lifted civilians. Shields buzzed to life. Defense towers powered up, but nothing fired. The enemy hadn't attacked. Not yet. They're waiting, Jor-El said behind him, voice quiet. Tess nodded. They want to be seen first. Felt. They want fear to set in. Creel joined them, gripping his rifle tight. We're not just targets. We're the example. Tex pointed to the sky. See that? In the middle of the fleet, larger than anything they'd seen before, floated Leviathan Prime, the original warship. Its hull was scarred, ancient, but fully active. It emitted no heat, no sound. But its presence was undeniable. The Varn fleet scrambled to meet it. Hundreds of cruisers, carriers, and dreadnoughts took formation in high orbit. Tex watched as the last of the Varn defenses locked into place. Already, Jor-El reported, and completely useless, Riel added. Tex didn't argue. The council met one final time in the underground chamber, deep beneath the capital. Representatives of 100 species, all staring at the same map, the Leviathan fleet. Now, over 11 ships, each one awoken, each one now circling major homeworlds across the galaxy, each one silent, watching, waiting. A Loric ambassador shouted, "They haven't fired yet. We should negotiate." A Jalari elder shook her head. "They do not negotiate." That was the message. Tech stepped forward. "We all know the truth. This began centuries ago. When Earth cried out, none of us answered." The room fell silent. Tex looked at them. We called them weak. We ignored their pain. We let their colonies fall. And now, the ghosts of humanity are answering in a voice we cannot match. Jorel entered the room with a new report, sir. "The Leviathan ships have transmitted a new signal, galactic-wide. No encryption." "It's a countdown," Creel asked. The only question that mattered. "To what?" Jorel's face was pale. "No one knows. But there are 3 words attached." He handed the device to TEKS. TEKS read the words slowly. "Protocol. Last stand." Countdown read for hours. Panic spread like wildfire. Entire fleets jumped to warp. Colonies went silent. Some surrendered without being asked. Others sent messages begging for mercy. None were answered. Back in orbit, Leviathan Prime finally moved. A single beam of light shot from its underside. Not as a weapon, but as a signal, it struck the surface. Avarn Prime, hitting the center of the Capitol Plaza, the ground cracked, but no one died. Instead, a massive metal spire rose from the crater. It pulsed with red light. Then, it opened. Inside was a human figure, or something that looked human. Pale skin, black eyes, armor fused with metal veins. It floated above the ground. A holographic field surrounded it, broadcasting its voice across the city, the planet, the galaxy. "I am the remnant," it said. The voice of the forgotten. People across Varn dropped to their knees. Others stood frozen, staring. The remnant spoke again. "When Earth burned, you closed your doors. When our children cried, you turned away. Now we return not to conquer but to remind. Every monument you build will tremble. Every memory you hold will bend. And every world will ask one question. Why did we let them die?" Tex whispered. "This is their vengeance, not with fire, but with memory." Creel's eyes narrowed. "So why the countdown?" As if in response, the remnant's eyes turned upward. "Last stand is not your command. It is ours." Then the sky tore open. Not from fire, not from weapons, but from gateways. Massive rifts in space opened across the system, black holes red-lined. From each new vessels emerged, but they weren't warships, they were arcs. Thousands of them, each marked with the Terran flag. Each filled with something unexpected. Joe RL gasped as the scans came in. There, carrying human DNA. Billions of sequences. Frozen embryos. Genetic vaults. Memory cores. AI clusters. Creel couldn't speak. Tex whispered what no one else could. Last stand wasn't the end. It was the return. Leviathan ships hadn't come to destroy the galaxy. They had come to warn it one last time. And if the warning was ignored again, then they would burn it all down. The remnant lifted its hands. The past has spoken. The future waits. Countdown reached 0, and then everything stopped. No attack, no fire, no command, just silence. Then one final message, across every frequency, in every voice humanity had left behind. Do not forget us again. And the Leviathan fleet vanished, just like that, gone, leaving behind nothing but ashes of fear and arcs of hope. The galaxy held its breath in every corner of space. Where Leviathan-class ships had hovered like nightmares, there was now only silence. No orbiting warships, no red signals, no destruction, just the emptiness they left behind. But the silence didn't feel like peace. It felt like a warning that wasn't repeated because it didn't have to be. On Varn Prime, people stood beneath the still-glowing spire the Leviathans had raised in the Capitol Plaza. It was cold, silent, and pulsing like a heartbeat that had no body. The remnant was gone. The hologram had ended, but the message lived in every terrified stare. Every trembling voice. Every sleepless night since the countdown ended, Commander Tex walked through the crowd, his face pale and quiet, past families staring up at the sky, still afraid to speak too loudly. Children whispered about the floating giant with glowing eyes. Elders cried silently, remembering the recordings the AI had shown Earth burning. Begging, forgotten beside him, Creel scanned the Spire 1. "Last time. It's not transmitting anymore," he said. But the signal still echoes. Jorl joined them, carrying a data slate. "We've finished translating the final protocol. It's not a threat. Not anymore." He paused. "It's an invitation." Tex raised an eyebrow. "Explain." Showed the file on the screen. It was a basic log entry written in ancient Terran code, buried inside the countdown. It read, "To those who watched us die, you now know the cost of silence. We are not here to rule. We are here to return." Inside. Each arc is not just human DNA. Memory, history, art, culture, languages, stories, grief, rage. What was lost must be remembered. What was stolen must be honored. Creel stared at it. "So this was never about revenge?" Joel shook his head. "No, not fully. The fear was only the price of being forgotten." The arc's massive vessels that emerged during the countdown were already in position around dozens of systems. No weapons. No shields, just storage, data, light, and each one carried the same signal. "We are not gone." Back in the Dominion Council, leaders gathered again. This time, no one shouted. No one argued. There were no power plays, no denials, only questions and guilt. Tex stood before them. "We have been given a second chance, not to fix what we did, but to carry the memory of what we allowed." Loric General asked, "What happens if we try to control the arcs?" Jorl answered simply, "Then the Leviathans come back." Creel added, "And next time, they don't leave." Ain't no one spoke after that. Across the galaxy, worlds began approaching the arc slowly, cautiously. Not to conquer, but to learn. Inside each one, they found something different. On Telrose 5, the arc contained stories, millions of Terran books, plays, and songs. A cultural flood of laughter, sadness, and humanity. On Krill Station, the arc played a looped recording of Earth's final sunset. No words, just music and light. On Cornus, the arc held only one thing: a child's drawing. A stick figure family standing under a blue sky. Written beneath it, "Please don't let us disappear." These weren't threats, they were reminders. The Leviathans had been weapons, yes, but also witnesses. They had watched silently for generations, waiting to speak only when the galaxy was ready to listen. Now, they were gone again, vanished into deep space, like shadows slipping back into the dark. But everyone knew they could return in a breath. All it would take was arrogance. All it would take was forgetting. Weeks passed. Then months. The galaxy began to change. Memorials to Earth rose across star systems. Schools began teaching Terran history, Istri. Songs from Earth were translated and performed by alien choirs. Even the Dominion military adopted a new oath: never silent again. But it was on Varn Prime where the most remarkable thing happened. One night, without sound or announcement, the spire in the Capitol Plaza opened again. Inside, a light pulsed, and a voice spoke, gentle, human, warm. Recording the last voice of Earth. "We are not asking you to mourn us. We are asking you to remember us. Let our silence teach you what our voices could not. And if someday our kind walks among the stars again, greet them not with fear, but with the welcome we never received." The spire dimmed. The light went out. And the Leviathans never returned. But no one forgot, because forgetting was the real extinction. And now, humanity was more than just a species. They had become a warning. A legend. A ghost in the stars that whispered softly to every world. We're here, we mattered, and we will never be lost again.